Welcome to Dental Nachos TV, where we strive to help you as a dentist, as a team member, live your best dentisting life. And I am thrilled to have the amazing Deborah McPhee with me here today, Nacho sponsor, who is going to be sharing what to do when violence comes to work. Some of the things, maybe all of the things that we were not trained to learn in dental school, Deborah is going to help us with. Deborah, before you get started and I turn over to you, could you just orient your audience as to what McPhee Coaching does and how it helps dentists?
Okay. Well, I've been in the dental field for most of my adult career, and I've been a business coach for over 20 years. So there's a lot that I do under McPhee Coaching. The domestic violence and the sexual harassment training is mandated in 8 states. And so
Excellent.
I handle all that training. And the offices that hire me as part of their team, I am on staff or on call for all of their questions. And I give it gives the doctor has somebody for the staff to talk to. The assistants called me and said, "Oh, hey, this happened at work today. Is it weird? Is it creepy? How do I fix it?" And so we just brainstorm and fix things before they blow up into emergencies.
Well, that is what we need, Deborah. I will share as a practice owner, running a practice owner, use a technical term, is nacho nuts. And we need more fixers like you. So I'm going to turn this over to you. I'll be back at the end to check in with you. Thank you so much for supporting us as a sponsor and sharing with us today.
Thank you. Okay, so what we're going to talk about is when violence comes to work. My name's Deborah McPhee. I'm the founder of Salus Training Systems. Okay, I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. I invite everybody to connect with me wherever you are, and I would love to connect with you. I also have a Facebook group, Save the Drama for Your Llama, and I would invite everybody to join the Facebook group. And I have an offer for the people that do join the Facebook group and for all the nachos. I am going to give free training on November 15th at 4 p.m. Central. So you're going to end your day early, order your pizza, and have your team training. And it's going to be the 24-25 sexual harassment prevention training. And this is a list of some of the other classes I have on my roster. But the sexual harassment prevention training, which is mandated in 8 states, if you are in states California, Connecticut, Delaware, Illinois, Maine, New York, Washington, and Washington, D.C., it's mandated, and the rest of the states is highly recommended. Okay, so we're going to jump right in. What does OSHA say about workplace violence? Workplace violence is any act or threat of physical violence, harassment, intimidation, or anything that disrupts your workflow at work, any behaviors that are disruptive at work. Workplace violence is into 4 categories. The first one is intrusive violence. That's the unknown person. That's usually a robbery. Somebody is in your building, in your space. You don't know who they are or why they are there. That's intrusive violence. Consumer related violence that's Karen at the front desk. She wants to talk to the manager, right? That is your patients and your employees fighting with one another. Relationship violence is peer-to-peer, peer-to-significant other. This is my area of expertise. This is what I wrote my thesis on. This is Me Too, domestic violence, sexual harassment, everything that falls under there. And then finally, organizational violence is company to employee or employee to company. That's big company stuff, like 20,000 people get laid off all on the same day, or everybody goes on strike and the rat shows up at work. You know, they put the big rat up on the construction site. All right. Intrusive violence, criminal intent by strangers. If somebody is in your office and they're holding a gun at you and they're not killing you, you're not dead, they want something. So you have to figure out what they want and give it to them. This right here happened to my brother. My brother was the manager at a large drugstore chain downtown Chicago. And 3 men came in dressed like that. They locked the doors, they tied everybody up, and they took my brother, the manager, over to the safe and they took all the money. And then they went into the pharmacy and they took all the pills and then they left. And the corporation hailed the whole thing a success because my brother, as boss, was able to keep everybody alive. All right, so you don't cry over stuff. If somebody has a gun in your head and they want something, you give it to them. They may go away. Active shooter protocol. You're not ever going to talk down anyone with a gun. Active shooters understand that they're going to die today, and their goal is to kill as many people as they can before somebody kills them. So your goal there is run, hide, fight. run away. Do not try to talk to an active shooter. You get out of their way. And if you can't run away, if you can't get out of the building, you got to hide. And if you do come face to face with them, you fight to the death because they're going to kill you anyway. Might as well hit them over the head with the fire extinguisher. All right. So run, hide, fight. And if you Google active shooter protocol or run, hide, fight on YouTube, there's a couple of movies that are 12, 15 minutes long that tell you exactly what to do in detail. And I encourage everybody to take 10 minutes of your time to get that education. All right. Mental illness. If this shows up in your waiting room, you have seconds to triage and figure it out. So what you're going to do, you're going to point to somebody and say, call 911. And then you're going to go, you're a doctor. You got to triage. Are they on drugs and they're crazy, or do they need drugs? Sometimes when people need drugs and don't have their drugs, they get a little loopy, just like when they're on drugs and they shouldn't be on drugs, they're a little loopy. So if this is in your waiting room, now, if this person has a gun, you got to run away. But if they are truly under some sort of medical duress, well, you're a doctor. Go figure it out. All right. You got to triage. You got to figure out what's wrong. And this is going to be your quick list of what are you going to do before the police get there? Can you sit calmly? Can you calm them down? Can you sit next to them until the ambulance gets there? Do you have to sit on them and restrain them? Right? Do 3 people need to restrain them? What has to happen to keep everybody safe? Because as business owner, it's your job to keep everybody safe. So if this is in your waiting room, you instruct somebody to call 911, you triage, figure out what they need, and the police are going to be there in 5 minutes. So what are you going to do in the next 5 minutes to keep everybody safe? Protest violence. All right. If you have 50 people banging on your door, you're not going to hold them off, especially like with the baseball bat or anything. So I would run, hide, fight. I'd get out of their way. These people are not going to rob you. They're not going to go in your office and look for your petty cash. They're there. They want to smash your equipment, and it's a riot. Okay, so you got to get out of the way, keep everybody safe. If you can get out the back door and drive away, do that. You have to be very careful though, because if you hide in the basement and they set the building on fire, now you're in a fire. So you're not going to hold off people. If you have a mob of people, you're not going to hold them off. This is what insurance is for. You don't cry over stuff. You get new stuff. You cry over people. So it's your job to keep the people safe, and you do that by getting out of their way. All right. Consumer-related violence. This is where your patients and your staff are fighting with one another. Everybody knows Karen. Karen is going to stand at that front desk and she's going to want to talk to the doctor. Never mind, she was just in your chair for an hour. She doesn't think your receptionist knows how to check out a patient and make an appointment. She needs you up there to do it. And Brenda, oh, watch out for Brenda. Brenda's got WebMD. She's going to challenge your medical degree, and whatever you're presenting, the guy down the block can do it cheaper. So I would be very leery of Brenda. You don't need her in your practice. Your work is never going to be good enough, and she's always going to have a better price someplace else. So let Brenda go. Karen just wants attention, right? But Karen and Brenda, you can handle in-house. Your real enemy here is Susan. Susan's not going to say anything to you. She's going to go home and get drunk and get on Facebook. Don't go to Dr. Bob's office. I did. And then once you have that bad Yelp review or that Facebook review, that's very hard to get rid of. So Susan here is the one that you really want to be leery of. Karen and Brenda, you can handle in-house. And Brenda, just dismiss her. She's nothing but trouble. All right. On a more serious note, Dr. Sinclair and Dr. Burroughs were both shot dead over a pair of dentures. The patient didn't like the dentures, went out to the car, got the gun, and came right back in. And while all the women in the office ran away, the 2 doctors walked up, they were trying to talk them down. You never talk down somebody with the gun. They're not rational, they're irrational. Okay? So this is where I want to talk about the safety of your building. Do you have a vestibule? If you build from scratch, you got to build a vestibule so people can get in out of the weather, but have to be buzzed into your office. And if he had a vestibule, actually, this office did have a vestibule, but it wasn't even locked. So he walked right in. So if in fact there was a locked door and he tried to get back in the office, they would have said, oh, patient's back and he's got a gun. Let's not open the door. And the outcome would have been very different. So number one, you never try to talk down somebody that has a gun. You get out of their way because they're not thinking clearly. And number two, get your vestibule. Vicarious trauma to staff. Everybody's got problems. You have them, I have them, we all have problems. And this is where, you guys are the crown makers. You're not the problems, right? So it's not your job to assimilate somebody else's problems. You're going to have a widow sitting in your chair. Oh, my husband just died and I don't have any money. And next thing you know, you're going to write off $3,000 worth of work. And then 6 months later, she's going to come back for a cleaning, after the insurance money kicks in, showing you pictures how she took all the grandkids to Disney. And you're going to say, I'm sorry, what? So you can certainly listen to problems, but it's not your job to fix it. And it's not your job to lend money to, any employee. Oh, I'm short. I need $500, $200. It's not you're not the bank, right? So it's not your problem. It's not your job to fix other people's problems. You can listen, but everybody has problems. Would you be upset if this was your mother? How about this woman sitting in your hygiene room and this was your hygienist? So you have values that you bring to your business, and you have to have your employees be on the same page and demonstrate the same values as you. Treating an elderly woman like this is not acceptable, not in any office anywhere. So you have to have employees that know how you want your patients to be treated. Patients are VIP. No patients, no money, no money, no business, right? So the patients are the VIP guests of your office. And it's inexcusable for somebody to treat a guest this way. Now, my dental assistants all like this screen. It's like sometimes you just got to wring your boss's neck. But staff violence, staff on staff, you have to understand you guys are together 10 hours a day. And you may have different personalities, too many cooks in the kitchen. One assistant does the instruments right away. Another assistant likes to let them sit and soak. I mean, you have a lot of different personalities in your office. All right, buckle up. Here we go. I am an RDA, and although my dentist has been mean in the past, he has never actually hit me. Today, he smacked my arm down and threw black composite tips at me. What should I do? They don't know what to do. All right, so I'd like to hear the doctor's side of this story, because this poor assistant probably did something wrong for the 800th time, and he just lost his cool. But what he in fact did was criminal. He assaulted her in front of a patient. So what should she do? What she could have done is had him arrested for assault and then sued him for harassment. So this is $1 million case. So she doesn't understand that. What should I do? They don't know what to do. When you have your sexual harassment prevention training online and from the state, and the state puts up the slide, here's a problem. If you have a problem, call us. We're going to fix it. That's teaching your employees to put you in the system. So you always want to get a liaison in between you and the state and your employees. Relationship violence, Me Too, boss to subordinate, man to woman, woman to man, any human can harass another human. All right, this goes under bullying. Any kind of sexual harassment, domestic violence, bullying. Bullying is the umbrella. All these things go underneath bullying. If somebody is a bully, if you have a bully in your office, they have a real self-esteem problem. If somebody has to put somebody else down to make themselves more important, that's a big problem. One of our patients is friendly and likes to hug when he leaves. On a recent visit, he went for a hug with our hygienist and instead groped her breasts. The staff member was understandably upset by the interaction and asked to no longer see the patient or interact with him. Number two, on a separate occasion, one of our associates was followed by a senior dentist into the lavatory where he shut the door, startling the young dentist. Several crude and offensive comments were made as she stood motionless under his towering statue. She was able to maneuver around him and quickly escape the room. How should we handle instances like this in our team? What are our ethical obligations? Okay, let's talk about that for a minute. As a business owner, it's your job to make sure everybody is safe. So the hygienist that was getting groped was not safe, and the young associate who was shut the door in the lab with the older doctor was not safe. So you want to implement policies in your office. You don't want any shut doors. Nobody needs to shut a door in a dental office, right? So I would have an open door policy, and that would make it safer for the women to go into the lab without Dr. Creepy here going in and shutting the door after her. And then your hygienist who is being groped, if ever a staff member comes to you and says, I don't like this patient, I don't want to work with this patient, I don't care if you do the cleaning yourself. You make it happen that she doesn't have to be anywhere that near that patient, because what's going to happen, you keep making her do it, and then she's going to file a claim against the guy. Here's what's going to happen. The hygienist, oh, creepy Joe's coming in. He always touches me. I'm going to call off tomorrow. So you're going to think your hygienist is home with the stomach flu, but really she called off because she didn't like her patient at 1 o'clock. Meanwhile, you've got to rearrange your whole day. You've got a whole hygiene schedule blown out for the day, and you've got lost production money. And you don't know why. Well, she's home. She's out shopping. She's got the day off of work. She's not going to deal with it. Or scenario number two is she puts up with it. She's not going to say anything to you. Oh, creepy Joe's coming in today. I can't stand it when he comes in. He always manages it's an accident and he touches me. She's not going to say anything to you because you've been playing golf with creepy Joe for 15 years. So she's scared of losing her job. So she's not going to say anything to you. So she's going to go home and she's going to get on the internet. And who's on the internet? Oh, Susan, Karen, and Brenda. Oh, remember them? Here's the number for the EEOC. Report. Okay, so now she's going to go to the EEOC. She's going to file a report against the patient that's touching her. And then she comes in the next day. You're going to walk in the next day. Everything's fine. And it's not fine. You have a claim against your business because as business owner, the claim goes against you, not the guy touching her butt. So now you as a business owner have the financial burden. Now you got to lawyer up. So you got to hire a lawyer. You have to have an investigation. The state is going to be in there. They're going to assign you a fine depending on what they find in their investigation. And as soon as it hits the Facebook group of the town you work in, you're going to lose 40% of business. It's going to take you 5 years to get that business back. So you have to think, as a business owner, do you have 5 years of half pay plus 100,000 for a lawyer and 5 years of your time to have a headache in case this happens to you? So this is what nobody thinks about this until it happens to them. And then you're in for 5 years of madness. This guy here was the dental assistant that was taking x-rays and pictures of a 6-year-old girl and somehow managed to take her clothes off and touch her. Now, I don't even know where in a dental office was he allowed to be alone with a little girl for long enough for that to happen. But here's where you need cameras in your rooms, and you need if you're a grown man, you're never alone with a young child. If you're a grown man, you're leery about bringing an assistant in the private office and shutting the door. These are precautions that we're taking now. You're going to put cameras all over your office. You don't have to listen, but you want to see what's going on. Because you know what? You're in room 3 with the drill in your ear most of the day. You don't know what's happening in your waiting room or the hygiene room or the back lab. So you want the cameras just to record it. So if somebody complains about something, you can go back and find it and see what really happened. But this guy was 10 counts of sexual of a minor and 5 counts of child molestation. He managed to touch a little girl when he was taking her x-rays and pictures. All right, let's talk about domestic violence for a little bit here. What is domestic violence? It's a pattern of behavior. It's a pattern of behavior in any relationship used to gain power over the other person. So when you're doing your exams, you want to look outside of the mouth. You want to look at the neck, the ears, the jawline, the back, the top of the head. You really want to look. Most victims of domestic violence get hit in the head. When a strike comes in, the males are usually taller. And when a strike comes in, it's usually in the head or the neck area. All right, so you want to look for black eyes, bruises on the earlobes, lip, bruises on the chin, finger marks on the neck, broken jaw, damaged. There's the list. So when you're doing your exams, you want to look for damage to the soft and hard palate, bruising on the cheeks and ears, and especially fingerprint sized marks on the neck. If you got 1 bruise on one side and 3 or 4 on the other, that's a choke hold. You want to look about jaw fractures, missing teeth, forcibly detached teeth. If she's getting hit enough in the jawline, some of her teeth may be knocked out. Discolored teeth from previous trauma. Substance abuse. Sometimes abusers keep their victims high and drunk, or sometimes they choose to get high and drunk because they can't stand that they're getting beat up so much, and unease during consultations. I had a doctor call me at 8:00 at night once, and he says, I just had an emergency leave. This woman Every time I put her in the chair and every time I tried to put the chair down, she started shaking and crying. So I had to move the chair up and wait 10 minutes later, calm down. When you do this 3 or 4 times, your hour's up. So he says, they're coming back tomorrow at 1 o'clock. He says, I think he's hitting her. I'm going to confront him. So I'm going to ask everybody, do you ever get in the middle of a domestic violence dispute? And the answer is no, never, no way. Okay, it's your job to keep everybody safe. You don't want a fist fight or a gunfight in your waiting room. So I instructed him to call the police, and you have to be careful because you guys are mandated reporter, but you also are do HIPAA, right? So you don't want to give out too much information. So you want to say, hey, this is Dr. Bob. I'm over on Main Street, and this is what I experienced in my office today. I need to know what to do. And in that case, he said about the woman and the man, and he thinks she's hitting her, and they're coming back tomorrow at 1 o'clock. And at that point, you got to do whatever the police tell you to do. So the police in this instant put 2 squad cars in the back, and both officers waited in the private office. And when the woman and the man came back, they separated them. They had the women in the room and they kept the man out in the waiting room. And the policeman went into the room, said, do you want to go to the shelter? We can take you right now. And the woman said, yes, she was being held hostage by this guy. So they go out the back door and leave for the shelter. And then the other policeman goes in the waiting room and deals with the guy that's out there. All right. So it is not your job to ever get in the middle of a domestic violence dispute. You call the police and you do what they say to do. All right. This lady here in the middle is Dr. O'Neill. She was a ER doctor at Mercy Hospital here in Chicago. And she was, her shift started at 4 o'clock and it was 3:30. She was in the parking lot and she was walking into work and her fiance, her ex-fiance showed up out of nowhere, wants the ring. And she says, well, I can do that tomorrow. Right now, I got to get to work. And he started chasing her. So other people getting in the car, she started, call the police. He's going to kill me. And she started running into the building and he started running after her, shooting at her. And in the crossfire, he killed Dr. O'Neill. He killed Dr. Officer Jimenez, 28 years old, 4 little babies. And he killed pharmacy tech, Dana Less, 25 years old, walking through the lobby. And then the police showed up and killed him. Now you got 4 dead kids here. Now, I want you to think for a minute. What if you were in the lobby of that hospital? What if you were in the parking lot? What if it happened in the parking lot of Home Depot? You have to have your situational awareness around you that if something like this happens, you know what to do. Here's another example of a patient asking for help. You can see right over here in this first picture, this woman here in her hand, she's handing a note to the receptionist. So, and the note read, okay, so there's a video on YouTube if you want to Google this, but this woman was held hostage for 5 days in the house, and she finally convinces the boyfriend that the dog is sick and they have to go to the vet. So they're at the vet. She has to go to the bathroom. And then as she's coming out of the bathroom, she drops this note by the front desk. Call the cops. My boyfriend's threatening me. He's got a gun. So then over here, you see the camera in the operatory because everybody has cameras in their operatories, correct? Or you will by next week. All right, so you see the 2 of them sit with the dog waiting for the vet to come in, and the 2 policemen came in and apprehended him. So again, this doctor did not get in the middle of a domestic violence abuse. He called the authorities and let the doctors deal with it. So if your patients are making funny faces at you or googly eyes or trying to get your attention and you got a man in the room that won't leave, you got to separate them. You got to somehow get him out of the room and ask her if she's safe. Okay. The universal hand signal for help is you put your thumb in and you close your fingers on top of it. Thumb in, close down, and you do it a couple times. So if somebody is doing this, they are under duress, and you as a doctor have to help them. All right. You got to figure out what's going on. And if they're doing this and the guy is in the room, the guy is the problem. You got to separate them. That is the signal for help without letting the aggressor know. Organizational violence, I said in the beginning, that's big company stuff. 20,000 people get laid off on the same day, or everybody goes on strike. It's, it doesn't really, it's not so much in private businesses, just mostly big corporate businesses. So that's organizational violence. Occupational groups at a higher risk and healthcare workers are front and center. ER nurses and dental hygienists file the most claims. They're alone in the room with the patient and they get inappropriately touched the most. So number one, you want to be the type of boss that if somebody is touching your hygienist comes and tells you. You don't want them to go home and put a claim in against that person, because what they're doing is throwing you under the bus and getting you into the system. Care workers are front and center. So, in conclusion, the types of workplace violence, the first type is intrusive violence. That's an unknown person to anybody. That's usually a robbery. Somebody is in your office and you don't understand why. This is where the crazy boyfriend comes in and starts opening fire on everybody. You don't know who they are or what they're doing, but they're causing trouble in your office. And then the consumer related is your clients, your customers, your patients, and your employees fighting back and forth. Relationship, there's peer-to-peer, peer significant other, that's the Me Too, domestic violence, sexual harassment, and finally, organizational violence is big company violence. These are some of the other classes that I offer, and I want to thank everybody for taking the time to listen today.
Thanks so much, Deborah.
Dr.
Such a comprehensive review of the things that we need to be thinking about. I love how you said, really loved how you said, things can be replaced, but not people, or you cry over people, not things. And I think as a practice owner, there's just so many things you have to think about each day with your team. And if you don't train for things, you don't do the things when it happens. And as you shared on this, awesome webinar, these are unexpected occurrences, right? They're not things you can put on the morning huddle that someone is going to come back angry about something. And we've seen these poignant and tragic stories like the angry denture patient in Texas and things like that. So I so appreciate you sharing. You have your contact information here, Deborah. Let's just say someone's watching in on this live, recorded 5 months from now, 5 days from now, and they want to reach out to you. What are they asking? What are they saying? Hey, Deborah, I need help with this. Or hey, Deborah, you have this online course. Tell us a little more about that.
Right. Well, the people that hire me, I have $100 a month program. So the price of one cleaning a month gets me on your team. I answer a lot of the questions. I do. There's about 30 hours of training a month that I offer. And if you have a brand new employee, they have to be trained that first day. So you're not plucking out $100 a month, just for the one person to be training. All of your employees can hop onto any of these classes. I have a check-in with the business owners. I have a Zoom hour with the business owners only, and that's where they can talk about their staff. And then I have a Zoom hour with the employees only, and that's really where they talk about their bosses. So we fix a lot of problems before they explode. So the bottom line is, before every emergency, there's a chance to plan. What is your plan? A lot of the business owners that have me on the team, I was in one of the offices and the assistants were not dressed appropriately. I mean, they were falling out of their scrubs. And I simply said, you guys have to wear undershirts under your scrubs. And the doctor said, I'm so glad you said that to them, because I can't. And you're right. As a grown man, you can't tell a grown woman to put an undershirt on, but I can. And I do all the time. So,
You're the fixer. You're Deborah the fixer. I like it. And, they're not my favorite dental procedures, bridges, but sounds like you bridge the gap between the, owners and team, and also in the spirit of keeping everybody safe, protected, and trained. And, I think one of the things you shared about is, I'm sure you see this, there's a lot of turnover in the dental field, more over the last 4 years than my first 14 years. So when you bring on new team members, it's just key that you give them the resources to know what everybody else knows.
you have to give. A lot of big companies are bringing coaches on, right? So it's time for small companies to bring coaches on too. I'm a life coach. I talk to a lot of people. I'm also a confidential advisor. So if one of your assistant calls me and says she's having problems at home with her man, that's confidential. I'm not going to call you and say, hey, you got to know what's going on at Mary's house. But the fact is, domestic violence is 1 in 4 women. So if you have a bunch of women working with you, you might have a couple who are not having a good time at home. And they're going to bring all that drama into your office, and you are going to lose money. It's the business owner that loses the money in every one of these scenarios.
Your points are so good. I think it's just, whenever you bring in a coach or consultant to do this in whatever capacity, you're showing your team that you care about them. You're showing your team that I care about you, not just as a professional, but also as a person as well. So I'm thrilled. And then, to share your humorous Facebook group, just tell us again where people can join the Facebook group, or what's it called? I like the alliteration there, the rhyme.
Save the drama for your llama.
Save the drama for your llama. And you have some trainings coming up that we'll also share with our audience. You're going to be at our event, Super Dentist Boost Camp, which we can't wait, Deborah. And just one more time before we finish up, just tell our audience that they were listening in this moment and they needed to call you. what is the best way for them to do this? And please say it for the recording in case someone's just listening and doesn't see the screen.
Okay, the website is McPheeCoaching.com. The email is deb@McPheeCoaching.com, and the phone number is 312-533-1994.
Thanks so much, Deborah. Really appreciate it.